What's up, guys? Welcome back. Thanks for checking out another video. So it's 2024. This is like the first day back of the new year. I took most of the holidays off and I am excited to get started working again on this Porsche stuff. I know a lot of you are eager to see what's going on. This is going to be a big year, I think, for Porsche K swaps. We're finally going to release the 911 K swap and finishing up the Cayman and Boxster K swap. So 2024 is going to be super cool, I think. Speed Academy recently released the video that we did like late in the summer, early fall, of Pete and I going to the racetrack, him driving it and sharing the experience of that car at the track, which is not really a track car. It is a street car that you can go to the track with if you want. And I think that's part of the whole reason of owning one of these cars, is you can be able to enjoy it on the street, take it to the track if you want, and enjoy it. So if you haven't seen that video, maybe I'll link it up there or in the video description. Today is like the first day back from the holidays and I got a bunch of work to do. So I thought I would make a video and take you guys through my day and see how this turns out. I'm gonna turn the camera around because I hate being on the camera. I'm sure you guys would rather look at cars than my face anyways, so. All right, guys, so today is kind of a unique day, or kind of cool for me at least. I have my entire Porsche collection here at the shop. I currently have 5 Porsches, 3 911s, actually this is a 2000 Boxster, I checked recently, and an 06 Cayman S. I'll talk about those in a second. But over here, I have my original 2006 Porsche 911 Carrera S. It's not a GT3, it just has GT3 front and rear bumpers, wing, wheels, 6-pot front brakes, and obviously the K24 swapped turbocharged engine that started all of this. Over here, I have my most recent addition to the collection, a 2008 Porsche 911 Carrera 4S. This is an all-wheel drive car, and I've been wanting to get my hands on an all-wheel drive car for a while, and this one came up. A friend helped me locate this car, so thanks a lot, John. It is now technically a running car, but when I got it, it was not a running car, and it's still kind of stuck. It's, if you notice, it's on dollies because this car was essentially abandoned, almost, basically. The plan is to do a whole video series on this car. I'm gonna name that series the Abandoned 911 because this car is a one-owner car. The original owner drove it and broke down on him one day and it wouldn't start apparently, and he just left it sitting in his driveway for 3 years, and he had to, he was moving and he had to get rid of it, and I snagged it for a pretty good deal. And another friend of mine and I got it running, so it runs again, and I'm pretty sure I can drive it once I get all the brakes unseized. So the plan for this car is to go crazy. I want this car to make like 700-800 horsepower on ethanol and be able to take it down to, say, Florida to the Freedom Factory and compete in Cletus's spectator drags. I think that would be a ton of fun. I wanted to do it with this car, but I like this car too much and I don't want to jeopardize it. But this car, there's no sentimental attachment to it, and it will have the power to compete. So I think this is going to be the perfect candidate to do just that. So let me know what you think, if that seems like a cool idea. Over here, I have my other 2006 Porsche 911. This is just a Carrera, so this is essentially a base model. Came with the 3.6 liter engine. It is a manual transmission as well. It's 6-speed manual transmission. I bought this car to use as a development car because I did not want to take my original 911 apart, so I could continue driving that car and enjoying it while we finished up the kit using this car. On display, sort of, I have what a mocked up K24 swap would kind of look like with all the pieces we've been working on, such as the engine brace that we developed, the low profile valve cover, which is a must. I get messaged all the time about using other valve covers or cutting the car to make it fit, and the quick answer is it just doesn't fit. You can't get much space out of here. The rear window, the frame to the rear window is there, so you can't actually cut that much out. And if you want to run coil-on plugs, which is important to me because if you don't run coil-on plugs and you leave this open, lots of debris and stuff ends up down in your spark plug tubes. Moisture gets in there and it leads to misfires. So with this low profile valve cover, we have a proper seal on the coil to basically seal out moisture and dirt and debris that just flies around the engine bay. Additionally, we have our intake manifold that works with the original Porsche throttle body, turbo manifold that works on this K24Z engine, which makes for a really nice compact package. And then additionally, this is not actually the final version or anywhere close to the final version, but it's all I could find at the moment, is the adapter for power steering so that you can connect to the original Porsche power steering line, which is over here. Essentially, a simple solution so that you can use the Honda power steering pump and easily connect it to the Porsche power steering line, or the original Porsche power steering line, without having to make anything custom, which is what I did originally. I also have on here the upper coolant housing that we've been working on. This is kind of a must. The stock one won't work or fit in the engine bay because this firewall is in the way and there's not a lot of space between the engine and this upper coolant housing. Also, we needed to be able to direct the upper rad hose, which is what you see here, towards the left side of the car, or in North America, the driver's side of the car, because that's the side of the Porsche cooling system that hot coolant goes towards. And then also on the other side, we have the fitting for the hot coolant to go towards the heater hose, which we would normally connect to, which I have hanging down there. We're also working on hard lines so that you can replace the Porsche hard lines in the car so that it's easier to connect the coolant lines. So the rad hose is from this point and this point. So this is where cool coolant goes into the engine. This is where the hot coolant exits the engine. So we're working on our solution so that makes it nice and easy for anyone else wanting to do this swap. It is going to be a really nice solution that fits the car properly. It's not just going to be like excessive long straight sections of rubber hose that is like basically a universal fitment. It'll be designed to work properly in the space that's provided, the limited amount of space I should say. All right, additionally, I've been rearranging the shop a bit so that I can make room or make it easier to work on this car. This is the 2000 Boxster I have that was given to me because it is basically a wreck and it will never see the road again. But it is the perfect candidate to create the subframe that we are working on to basically to install a K series engine and transmission into a Boxster or Cayman, essentially the same thing. On these cars, we are focusing only on K-Series engines, either K24 or K20, with a Honda transmission. We are not focusing at all on using the original Porsche transaxle for multiple reasons. The main one being there's no nice way to reuse the Porsche transaxle with the K-Series engine without cutting significantly into the passenger compartment, and it's just not something we're interested in doing. So yeah, that is what we're focusing on for the Boxster and the Caymans, is the Honda K-Series engine, K20 or K24 with a K-Series transmission. And there's lots of options out there. You could go 5-speed, you could go 6-speed, and eventually we do hope to be able to offer Volkswagen DSG transmission as well, because personally I think this is a super sick option, and I think it'd be cool to see that work on one of these cars. The goal is to start working on this swap kit this month. We're waiting on something to help us with that. I've been rearranging the shop a bit to make life easier when my new equipment comes so we can prototype this new subframe faster. Today, I do need to do some rearranging. I need to get this car mobile. I need to free up the brakes so that I can get it off the dollies and drive it around. I need to move my car. Basically, these cars need to trade spots. This one doesn't move, so I have to free it up so that we can trade spots here. And I'm gonna move my car to this spot because I need to take it apart slightly. We have essentially finalized the wiring harness for the K-swaps, and I need to install that wiring harness on my car, because right now my car runs on a Cyvex ECU, which is a fantastic ECU. They've been amazing. It's just out of the budget for most people. So we partnered with Link, which has an amazing ECU, and there's much more economical. So I need to install one of the new wiring harnesses on my car with the Link ECU, and additionally I want to install the intake manifold. This intake manifold, because the intake manifold I have on right now is similar to this, but we have a K997 72mm throttle body, and I want to switch it up to the Porsche 74mm throttle body, the Bosch throttle body. So I do need to change out the plenum. So I am going to drop my engine down a bit, swap out the intake manifold, swap out the wiring harness, and in the process, show you guys what it's like to change spark plugs, because I think the number one complaint I get about this swap is, how do you change the spark plugs? So I want to address that. So in the comments in the Speed Academy video or my videos, I see a lot about how do you change the spark plugs. It is honestly easier and quicker to do spark plugs on this engine than it is to do it on the original Porsche engine. I realize a lot of people have concerns because the spark plugs or ignition coils are so close to the top of the engine bay, but the way this whole setup has been designed is that everything is attached to the engine, and it's very easy to actually just slightly lower the engine in the engine bay. It is not an engine out operation to do spark plugs. And that being said, spark plugs don't need to be changed very often. This has a set of iridium spark plugs. You should easily be able to get 40,000 miles out of the set, which is a lot. You don't need to be changing spark plugs that frequently. I did actually do a test run of changing out spark plugs when I first did this swap, jacking the car up, lowering the engine a little bit that it needs to be lowered, not draining any fluids, not doing anything crazy. The whole process, jacking it up, doing the spark plugs, putting it back on the ground, took 45 minutes. When I first bought this car, I did do a set of spark plugs on the original 3.8 liter engine on the ground, same way. And doing spark plugs on these original engines is, in my opinion, a nightmare. They are not easy to get to. You have to get to them from underneath, and you have to be a contortionist to do it. So it took me over 4 hours to do the spark plugs on my original engine versus 45 minutes on this engine. So I think I don't think that's an issue. Porsches are not easy cars to work on, and with this engine, you actually gain a lot of room. So it's actually way easier to work on these engines in these cars than it is to work on these engines in this car. So hopefully that helps answers the spark plug question. A lot of people also ask me about filling oil. You fill it, I did create an oil fill cap. Mine's kind of just hidden, and I made it with like a super low profile filler cap that uses an Allen key, so I just keep an Allen key handy. And not like, this is not an old Honda engine that actually like a B series that burns a lot of oil. This engine burns no oil, so I've never really had to top it up, and it's a nice sleek look. On the newer valve covers, I've provided a more user-friendly oil fill cap that you can easily remove without any tools. You will need a funnel of some sort to access it, so I don't know, small trade-off. I had contemplated doing like a remote fill location, but then it kind of looks ugly, and I chose aesthetics over, I guess, function in this case, but it's a small trade-off, I think. Oil dipstick, it is a remote oil dipstick because normally the oil dipstick would be on the top of the valve cover, but you can't access that, so oil dipstick is over here, and ironically it is actually an LS dipstick because those are super long. It runs through a custom line down to the oil pan, and we can check oil that way. So super simple solution, and when we do that car over there with the final build in this car, I will try to show how the oil dipsticks are done, so it is more obvious. But for now, I do need to get this car mobile. I gotta jack it up, take it off the dollies, and free up these brakes, and then move it around. All right, well, it's up and running. I can sort of move it back and forth. The smoke has actually cleared up a bunch. One side of the exhaust system smokes a bit more than the other. Could still be a bit of condensation. This one smokes a bit more than that one, I would say. But it has cleared up a bunch. It still stinks a bit, but it also doesn't sound very good. The engine doesn't sound very healthy. It's very clicky, but could be because it's been sitting for 3 years, and maybe once it's had a chance to run a bit, it'll sound better. But either way, I think it'll be good enough to take it for a test drive. I do need to pull it out. So I'm gonna switch these cars around, move my car where the red one is, put the red one on the lift, so that as I take my car apart, if it has to be down for a little bit, I can still access my dyno and do tunes as needed. So let's switch these cars around. All right, guys, cars are rearranged. Let me know what you think. I know this car has a stock exhaust system, but it does not sound great, whereas I kind of really like the sound of my car. A lot of people complain about the sound that it makes, but to me, it sounds pretty good. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm probably opening myself up to a world of pain saying that, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. So the car is in a good spot now in the shop. The plan is to jack it up, put it on jack stands, and I'm gonna swap out the wiring harness for one of my new wiring harnesses that will work with the link ECU, because this wiring harness that's on the engine right now is specific to the Syvex and how it was wired. And I've changed a bunch of things to work specifically with the link ECUs. So it's gotta come out. The new wiring harness has gotta go in. And also I wanna change out the intake manifold plenum so I can change the throttle body. While I'm doing that, the plan is to use this opportunity to show you guys what it's like to do a set of spark plugs on one of these K series engines in a 911. So what I'll do is I'll drop the engine down like I've talked about many times, and so that you can access the ignition coils and spark plugs if need be. Show you what all is involved in doing that and really how simple it is. All right, so really all that's left to do is jack this thing up, put some jack stands under it, and get to work. So let's take care of that. All right, with the car up on jack stands, I can now show you guys underneath what needs to be done to lower this engine down a bit so we can access spark plugs, but I'm not really actually gonna do the spark plugs. I'm just gonna show you that you have access and can clear it. I'm lowering it down so I can change out those parts. So underneath, to get the clearance that we need to lower this down a bit, it is simply unbolting just the mounting brackets for the sway bar, which are these 2 bolts right here and 2 on the other side. You do not need to undo the sway bar links. This just swings down out of the way. Behind it, there are 2 more bolts and 2 more on the other side that allow you to remove this aluminum suspension brace. It has nothing to do with alignments or anything like that. It's a brace that connects the frame from side to side. That you drop that out of the way. And on my car, I do need to undo the charge piping. It's hard to see, but back there is the intercooler. Actually, right here is the intercooler. There's a coupler here. Just remove that coupler. There's also a coupler on top. This coupler here just needs to get removed. Once that's all done, we can lower it down on the engine mounts. The engine mounts, the engine mounts are basically threaded studs. You can see one right there. To lower the engine, you just basically undo that nut and the whole thing comes down. In my case, I'm gonna put a jack under the oil pan to control how much it comes down. So I'm gonna disconnect all that stuff and we'll lower this thing down.
All right, that's basically how long it takes to undo the sway bar and drop out that aluminum brace. Next up is the intercooler pipes. The top intercooler coupler and the bottom one. On my car, I actually forgot, I do have this like remote mount oil pressure sensor, and this hose is a bit short. So I will undo this hose and probably this one too, just so it doesn't get damaged. This is a remote mount fuel pressure sensor line. Off the fuel rail, fuel pressure line to a fuel pressure sensor. The sensor is isolated so that any vibrations from the engine won't kill the actual pressure sensor. This is a best practice for using sensors like that so that they don't fail prematurely from the engine vibration. So in my case, I am gonna undo this one here and probably that one down there, just so that I don't accidentally damage either one of these hoses while I'm lowering it down. So let me continue on.
All right, guys, there we have it. The engine is down. It is down in its service position, let's call it, so you can access the top of the engine. This is probably plenty of room, but it is not even as low as you can get it, or like as lower down as possible. There is still a bunch of clearance between the drive shaft and the suspension, which is what will ultimately determine how far you can lower the engine down. But for today and what I need to do, this is as far as I need to get it down, I believe. I might adjust it a bit, but I did end up setting it up on a jack stand. The engine is resting on the jack stand. It's not resting on the jack because this is gonna be like this for a few days while I go ahead and change out the wiring harness, change out the intake manifold plenum and throttle body. That's all gonna be in the next video. I have a feeling that this video is already gonna be really long, so I'm gonna stop the video here, but I wanted to show you guys how long it takes to basically drop the engine down to this service mode to access the spark plugs and ignition coils and take off the valve cover if you wanted. You could potentially do a cam change in the engine bay if you needed to or wanted to. So this is the original valve cover I made. This valve cover did the job, but it never actually sealed very well. I used Skunk 2 low profile
hardware which leaked, and I ended up having to put like silicone in there. And then also this original version, we didn't do any of the machining to receive or accept the original seals that go on the ignition coils. So I have one here, and like with this valve cover, the seal didn't work. So again, we had to use silicone to basically keep moisture out and debris out of the spark plug tubes. But it's worked and no issues. The production version of this valve cover has all those things taken care of. We use better grommets. We've machined it so that it uses the OEM seal to seal the spark plug tubes. But it's cool to see. This is this is like the second time I've dropped the engine down in the 15,000 kilometers that I've been driving this car, and it's cool to see it's not actually that dirty. There's a bit of, I guess, grease and grime, but it is fairly clean in here. And I have to fix some of my heat management. Some of it's coming undone. I might put some sleeves. Afterwards, I actually bought a bunch of split sleeving that I might put on in there, but I think that's gonna be it for this video. In the next video, we're gonna tackle swapping out the wiring harness, swapping out the intake manifold plenum and throttle body, and then getting this car up and running on the Link ECU. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you guys like this content, let me know so I can continue to keep making it. So anyways, that's about it for this video, guys. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye now.